Welcome to the tutorial on putting together the LillianSplashedMe card. I'm Judith Henry, the designer. This card was a lot of fun to make. There are a lot of little elements in it. The video will concentrate on the assembly of the pop-up mechanism, which is the center part holding up 3 layers of pop-up elements.
Hello, I'm Judy from Electronic Cutting Machine Designs by Judith Henry. Today I would like to demonstrate how to put together the pop-up mechanism in my new card called Lillian Splash. It is a card that is a pop-up in a hexagon format. It has 3 little pieces that go around the mechanism that are in a hexagon. I think those are pretty self-explanatory on how you would fold those and glue those together so that the seam is blue inside. The card itself is a 5x7 card, so the inside is 7x10. You can select your own paper to line it to make it look festive. This one is a pool design. I used a straight design around the edge so it looks like a swimming pool within the picture. The form that comes with the cutting is this pool, but there's also a scalloped one that looks like waves that you can use. And so for instance, on this one, I used a background that has a lot of little mermaids floating in it, and I used the splash hexagon that goes around it. The little girl pops up in the center, goes down when you fold it in, and she pops up. The front of the card also is fairly self-explanatory. It's a cutout card of an umbrella with little feet running away from it. 2 little ducks. It's very simple to put together. It's cut out on a AC cardstock is what I use. And the peaks are the color of the backing on the paper that you line the inside with. So make sure that your inside pieces are large enough to cover up all the little holes that are on the front. So now let's look at the pop-up mechanism. The pop-up mechanisms is a print and cut. It's actually a double-sided print and cut because as you can see inside the mechanism, so you want to have color on both sides. They are lined up as the JPEG or the SVG file so that you can print it, flip it on the small end and print again, and they should line up identical if your machine is sliding them through. For studio, remember to put your registration marks in it so that you can do the print and cut. The paper that I'm using on this is a very heavyweight paper. It's between paper and index, so it's a fine index. It's about maybe 120 GSM. So you have these fine papers. This one is also a very fine paper. This is the pop-up mechanism. As you can see, when it's folded down, there are a lot of layers in there. So then again, you want to have something that is fairly stable so that it works and pops everything up, but a lightweight instead of using cardstock. So let me show you how to put together this pop-up mechanism. So I cut this mechanism out larger. It's 150% of what the smaller one is, and on white so that you can see everything that's going on. The mechanism in itself has many fold lines on it. They are indicated by the color The blue is a mountain fold, the red is a valley fold. I use my blade to actually score the lines. Today I used sketch pens to mark out so that you can see what way these are supposed to be folded to make this mechanism. You need to fold on each line. When I use the scoring with the blade, I set my blade at 1 and let it score on that. I also have a preset so that it doesn't have a lot of pressure on it, so it doesn't cut all the way through the cardstock. It makes it easy to fold without using your scoreboard, and doesn't break the seam. So I go through each one of these and I fold them, not paying attention to which way it's supposed to be folded. A blue dotted line is a mountain fold, and the red dotted line is a valley fold. And I'm doing this because I like to fold them both ways, because they will fold that way when you open and close a book. And to have a nice hinge on it, you need to have it so that it can fold nicely in both directions. So I go through folding it one way, and then I will do the reverse on the other way. Notice I'm just using my fingernail to put in a good crease on this. You can use your folding board, but I've got sharp enough fingernails that it does a nice job. And then go ahead and refold them the opposite direction, creasing them well. Be careful of all your pieces here. Okay, so now all the pieces are folded. I generally let these fold on their own after I glue them in. Those are the only two pieces that are glued at this point. So let's do our folding. Mountain, 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 valley. Mountain, valley, mountain, mountain. Notice that I left that one flat so I could show you that the two pieces come together to form the hexagon for the base. They lay flat. These little tabs will be glued to the back piece, which is stepped just like the step from the front. Today I am using Karen Burniston's glue using the fine tip bottle. I lift so I can see where the glue needs to go on each one of these tabs, and I start with this one, putting glue on the area between the dashed line and the edge. They just go back down and let them glue where they want to be. Same on this other side. The advantage of using an adhesive glue like this is it creates a very good bonding between the mediums. And then we need to let that dry for a little bit so that it doesn't slide around. That's one thing with liquid glue, is you can place them in there and move them. And I told you that you need to be able to fold these both ways. So go ahead and make the folds on these little flaps when it gets dried. And then fold them the opposite direction and make sure that these little flap seams lay down flat. They're a little flexible depending on how you get them glued down, and notice that mine aren't exactly on the crease. But doing it that way, you then have the box. And there's your box piece. I made a second one, and the way you put these together is they're actually glued on the center seam. And you want to be able to put your little girl
This is
in
the
between.
actual size
Of the piece in the blue. This is the piece that will actually glue down to here, and you want to find the center so that you can fold it nicely. Put some glue on the top pieces. You can also use the score tape. Find your center in your folder. And lay it down, let it glue together, let it dry good, fold it back. And it's attached to the base. The other piece will attach to this base on this section that is stepped. And so I'm going to go ahead and figure out first where I want my little mermaid to stand. And when you figure this out, you can make her as tall as you want to, as long as you lay it down this way to see how far she goes up in the air. When she stands here, you want to see how far above the form she is, because when you put this around her, you don't want her to look as though she's jumped way out above the waves. So you need to determine the length that you want her. And this is just a little bit too big, so I'm going to cut a little more off. She gets glued inside, facing front. Here's the front of the card. Put the glue along her edge on the back side, just at the ends. Then tuck her inside, matching the top part. Okay, now she's ready to pop out. I didn't quite get enough glue to the top. Okay. And then this side gets glued on to the step side opposite. Put your glue all over the place, including on the little girl, just to make sure she stays in good. match this up to that one. Then take the glue on here. This is that piece that's going to be glued down onto the base. And at this point, I would fold the card over so it finds its natural placement. These two pieces are glued down on the base. Make sure you have all your folds in when you glue. Put glue on one side. Make a natural fold and let it glue onto the side of the card. And it should pop up nice and then do the same thing on this side. Close the card. And now you have your pop-up. Whoops. I didn't wait long enough, did I? There you go. Now the rings that go around are actually glued on the steps. So you put a little glue on the steps on either side, on both sides. Start from the center. It's easier to do from the center out. It doesn't matter which one you start with to put in there. They're all the same length. Slip it over. This is the one that fits the snuggest. Make sure it's all the way down and let it dry. Second one is the little ducks. It goes on the larger rise. Put glue on both sides. And then put your ducks around. These are a little bit easier to put on. They're a little bit larger than the hex. Just make sure that you have the piece centered. Because the sides are aligned this way, they're a little bit larger this way. And the final one is the waves. That's on the last step. You can see that adding all these layers does make this pop-up a little bit heavier than some of the other ones I have done. So make sure that you're using a lightweight cardstock, heavyweight paper to assemble this. And there you have made your stepping stones. And your little girl slides in. And pops up out of the pop-up. Thank you for watching my pop-up card tutorial.